Hey everyone, it's Mikki here. You're listening to Mini Mikkipedia on a Monday, and today I want to chat about habits. Did you know that the day that is most often identified as the day that New Year's resolutions fail is January the 19th, which is pretty interesting because it's only really about maybe 3 or so weeks since we enthusiastically set those New Year intentions. And of course, one of the reasons why our intentions just fall by the wayside is because we have yet to make them as habits. Now, it's actually a bit of a myth that a habit takes 21 days to form. I mean, every habit is different. Some habits take next to no time at all to seamlessly be part of what you do every day, whereas some other bigger habits can take some time to start becoming just second nature, if you like, maybe months or even years for some people. So at the end of January then, as I'm kicking off into doing my webinar this Wednesday on metabolic mastery and fat loss for 2025 and registering people for Monday's Matter, our Shreddiary edition, I'm trying to get people to think about their habits and behaviours as much as I am about getting them eating the right type of food and doing more exercise. The best diet and the best exercise plan will not work if we don't instill these habits as part of our everyday life. So getting you thinking about how to do that and using a framework to do that, I think can be really helpful. And the information I'm going to share today is drawn from Gretchen Rubin, who is the author of The Happiness Project and a number of other things like the 4 tendencies. And she's got this great framework for habits that allows you to tailor your habits to your personality. So knowing yourself and understanding how timing and environment play a role. And they are designed to help anyone create lasting change. Although what I would say is that some people will find this a really valuable exercise to sort of go through some of the things that I'll be talking about today. Not all of these strategies are going to be relevant to you, but hopefully you'll find a few that you pick up and think, actually, this is something that I can work with here, or I identified that this could be helpful for me. Whereas some others, you'll be like, no, that's not really that relevant for me. So use your own best judgment on yourself as to what may work or what may not work. And 21 strategies might seem overwhelming, but again, like I say, you just start small, start with one, and then work your way through some of the things which would make a difference. Different strategies are going to work for different people. So the first strategy is knowing yourself. And one of her books actually is The 4 Tendencies, which I think is super helpful to know as to what type of person you are, whether you are an upholder, a questioner, an obliger, or are you a rebel? And all of us have and face both outer expectations, so expectations from other people, and inner expectations, so what we expect of ourselves. And the tendency that we most are aligned with will describe how we respond to these expectations. Upholders respond readily to both outer and inner expectations. So they work hard to meet others' expectations and their expectations for themselves. Questioners question all expectations and will meet an expectation only if they believe it's justified by reason, logic, and fairness. They follow only their inner expectations. Obligers will readily respond to outer expectations, but they struggle to meet inner expectations. They keep their promises to others, but have difficulty keeping their promises to themselves. And they respond to external accountability. And I have to say, with all of my clients and with people that come into my plans, I think more often than not, people may exhibit patterns of behavior that align much more with the obliger tendency. Like they find it very difficult, despite the fact that they want to lose weight, they find it very difficult to keep those promises that they made to themselves. That's why being part of a group is just such a game changer for so many people. Anyway, and rebels resist all expectations, outer and inner alike. They choose to act from a sense of choice, identity, or freedom, and they resist control, but even self-control. So when we try to form a new habit, we set an expectation for ourselves. So understanding our tendency allows us to choose the strategies that will work for us. For example, accountability, as I mentioned, is a crucial strategy for obligers, but for rebels, it can actually be counterproductive. And there is a link actually from Gretchen Rubin's website that gives you more information on understanding yourself better in these 4 categories. And I'll link it in the show notes so you get a better understanding of that. Strategy 2 is distinctions. So in addition to knowing how you respond to inner and outer expectations, it is important to recognize other aspects of your nature related to habit formation to avoid wasting energy, time, or money. For example, are you a morning person or are you a night person? Are you an overbuyer or an underbuyer? Do you prefer familiarity or are you better off with novelty? Do you prefer competition or collaboration? And considering such distinctions will help you establish habits in a way that best suits you. And just to go into a little bit more detail on a little bit of this, you're an overbuyer if you often buy up large and huge supplies of slow-moving items like shampoo or cough medicine, or you often make a purchase with the thought of, well, this will probably come in handy, rather than actually requiring it. Or you find yourself throwing things away, medicine, spices, even cans of soup, because they've hit the expiration date well in advance of you actually using them. Or you buy items with the thought that this will make a great gift without actually having a particular person in mind for it. So these are all signs that you're an overbuyer. You're an underbuyer if you often scramble to buy an item like a winter coat or a bathing suit after the point at which you need it, or you're a bit suspicious of specialized items and resist buying things dedicated to very specific uses, such as special plastic plates and cutlery for children, or hand cream, or rain boots, or hair conditioner, or you often need to come up with some sort of makeshift solution, such as using soap for shampoo because you run out of shampoo, or you often considering buying an item, then decide that you'll get it some other time, or maybe we don't really need this. So these are signs that you're an underbuyer. And underbuyers often stressed because we don't have the things that we need. We make a lot of late night runs to supermarkets, for example, or we're surrounded with things that don't really work or aren't exactly suitable. Whereas overbuyers often feel stressed because they've just got so much stuff. And why this matters is because you need to be able to create strategies for habit formation that reflect the type of person you are. Habits often require tools, resources, or preparation, and aligning strategies with these tendencies ensures that you're not hindered by your purchasing patterns. For example, an overbuyer might need accountability to act rather than help preparing because they've probably got everything. They've got all the equipment, books, or tools they need to start a habit, but they're just stuck in this overwhelmed cycle and then they don't do anything. Whereas an underbuyer actually might need encouragement to overcome the resistance to acquiring these necessary tools. So they're reluctant to invest in things that would allow them to support a habit. And they might need to reframe their purchases and thinking about them as investments in their well-being or success and start with sort of minimal or budget-friendly options. So this is really important when you're thinking about your ability to sort of create or form habits. Now, the third strategy is monitoring. What gets measured gets managed, in other words. And keeping close track of our actions means we do better in categories such as eating and drinking, exercising, working, TV use, and scrolling on the internet, and just about anything, actually. So a key step for the strategy of monitoring is to identify precisely what action you're going to monitor. Is it the number of steps that you take in the day? Is it the number of times you hit the gym? Is it keeping a food diary? That is one of the most powerful tools for behavior change when it comes to diet, regardless of who looks at it, or actually tracking macros. Or is it weighing yourself daily, which is again another tool that we can use to successfully monitor behavior change around diet. Figure out which one's going to really move the needle for you. Strategy number 4 is foundation, and understanding those anchor behaviors that then drive other healthy behaviors is really critical. For some people, the act of exercising, of getting out the door and doing something, then flows on into eating better because they want to feel better when they exercise, or being more diligent around going to bed because they know they have to get up to train the next morning, or saying no to that third drink because they know that alcohol disrupts their sleep. So the anchor behavior here is exercise. And when that goes out the window for some people, it then affects all of these other behaviors. Number 5 is scheduling. Put it on the calendar, be it food preparation, be it meal planning, be it exercise, or even setting an alarm and making a note of what time you're going to bed. All of these things make a difference to your ability to sustain that healthy behavior that you're trying to ingrain. Habits will grow strongest and fastest when they're repeated in a predictable fashion. So putting that activity in the calendar at the same time every week is really going to help you adhere to it. Number 6 is accountability. Many people do better when they know someone's watching. And particularly for people who identify as an obliger, external accountability is absolutely essential. So join a group like Mondays Matter, that you have the Facebook group there and me for accountability. Hire a personal trainer or a nutrition coach. Meet up with a friend to go for a walk and go for a run. Like anything like this that means that you're not just accountable to yourself. For people who need it can really make a critical difference. Remember, number 7 is about first steps. So it's enough to begin. And if you're ready, begin now. And while starting is hard, starting over is often harder. So once you've started, try not to stop. Don't break that chain. And there's a saying of never miss twice. So yes, you might have had a misstep in your diet. Next time to correct that is the next time that you eat. So just get back on board. Number 8 is a clean slate. So when we go through a big transition, old habits get wiped away. And with that clean slate, new habits form more easily. For this reason, a great time to tackle a new habit is when starting a new job, a new relationship, or moving homes. Many people also use the new year, like we've just had, or a birthday or an important milestone as a clean slate. And when facing a clean state, remember that temporary becomes permanent. So start the way that you want to continue. And this is why that temporal nature of the new year is so great for reestablishing the type of person that you want to be. Number 9 is a lightning bolt. Doesn't happen very often, but once in a while we encounter a new idea, new information, or a new role, and suddenly, almost effortlessly, a new habit replaces a well-established one. And the strategy can be enormously powerful, but it's hard to invoke on command. For example, for me, reading Sarah Wilson's I Quit Sugar book allowed me to completely get rid of my habit of chewing gum, to the point that since reading that book back in 2011, I haven't chewed gum since. Prior to that, I chewed at least a packet of gum a day. And when those packets of extra Wrigley chewing gum, when they doubled in size from 7 to 14 pieces, I just ate double. It was a crazy, terrible habit that I didn't love, but I was so tied to it. And I just had this light bulb moment when reading Sarah's book that I was just chewing for no reason other than to occupy my mouth, and instead I needed to just eat more food. And I was putting all of the artificial sweetener and the sugar, alcohols weren't responding well to me, and my tummy was grumbling, and it was just like a switch had been flicked in my brain. And from there on, I've never had another piece of gum, which that is a lightning bolt moment. Let me know if you've ever had one, actually. Number 10, the strategy is abstaining. So when facing a strong temptation, abstainers do better when they abstain altogether, while moderators do better when they indulge in temptation sometimes or a little. So know yourself here. For abstainers, it's much more difficult to do anything in moderation. So you're going to have to give things up. Whereas for moderators, it's harder to abstain. And in fact, they do better if they have just a little bit of something. So know yourself there and follow your pattern of behavior that most aligns with the type of person you are. Number 11 is convenience. So we're always going to be more likely to do something if it's convenient and less likely if it's not. And the amount of effort, time, or decision making required by an action has a huge influence on our habits. So make it easy to do the right thing and hard to go wrong. Likewise, number 12 is inconvenience. So to weaken a bad habit, make it as inconvenient as possible, because we're less likely to take action if it's inconvenient. The harder it is to indulge, the harder it is to do it impulsively. Number 13 is safeguards. So absolutely plan to fail. Try to anticipate and minimize temptation, both in your environment and in your own mind. So use the if-then planning to prepare for challenges that might arise. For example, if it's raining, then I will exercise by following some online strength-based program rather than getting outdoors and going for a run. So have a plan B in place just for when plan A fails, because plan A will fail at some point. Number 14 is loophole spotting, and I really like this one. We often seek justifications to excuse ourselves from a good habit, just this once. But by identifying the loopholes we most often invoke, we can guard against them. I'm going to give you some examples. False choice loophole. I can't do this because I'm so busy doing that. Moral licensing loophole. I've been so good, it's okay for me to do this. Tomorrow loophole. It's okay to skip today because I'm going to do this tomorrow. Lack of control loophole. I can't help myself. Planning to fail loophole. I'm doing this for no particular reason, but now that I'm here, I can't resist. This doesn't count loophole. It's a holiday. Questionable assumption loophole. I'm so far behind, there's no point in starting. Concern for others loophole. If I don't do this, someone will be hurt or inconvenienced. Fake self-actualization loophole. You only live once. One coin loophole. What difference will this one action make? These are just some examples of the games that we play with ourselves to justify or excuse a behavior. And if you recognize any of these in yourself, then you can go and make a different decision that aligns much more with the type of person that you want to be. Strategy 15 is distraction. When we're tempted to break a good habit, we deliberately shift our attention away from unwelcome thoughts by finding healthy distractions. For example, when you feel the urge to eat chocolate, distract yourself by going for a walk, texting a friend, or drinking a glass of water. Instead of scrolling on social media, pick up a book, do a quick chore, or step outside for some fresh air. If you're ruminating on something unhelpful, turn on upbeat music, start a puzzle, or engage in a mindful breathing exercise. Distraction works because it interrupts the mental loop of habit triggers and responses. And by shifting focus, you prevent the habit from gaining momentum. Over time, consistently disrupting this loop can weaken the habit and make it easier to replace with something more constructive. And it isn't about avoiding a problem forever, but it's about creating enough space to resist the habit in the moment. And it's particularly useful for habits that are fueled by emotional or impulsive triggers. So this strategy of distraction helps build resiliency and gives you the chance to choose a better action instead. Number 16 is a reward. External rewards can actually undermine habit formation, because what happens is that we're constantly expecting an outcome from something that we just want to do anyway. So if you can make the reward for your habit actually doing the thing, then that is a really good reward to use. However, number 17 is treats. So unlike a reward, which must be earned or justified, a treat is a small pleasure or indulgence that we give to ourselves just because we want it. It's easier to ask more of ourselves when we're giving more to ourselves. So identify plenty of treats that align with the habit that you're trying to create. An example of this is if at the end of a week you've exercised 4 times, your treat to yourself is to go and get your nails done, for example, or buy yourself a new sports bra or something. Strategy 18 is pairing. Only do X when you're doing Y. So pair 2 activities, one that you need or want to do and one that you don't particularly want to do, and just always do them together. For example, you're only allowed that cup of coffee in the morning after you've had a glass of water. Strategy 19 is clarity. The more that you clearly identify the habit you intend to follow, the more you're likely to stick to it. So frame that habit to be concrete, manageable, and measurable. And put a time frame on it as well. Not necessarily, if I'm thinking about weight loss, like a time frame around the amount of weight that you want to lose, but the amount of time that you're going to spend diligently building these better habits. And set yourself specific goals around certain parts of those habits as well. You guys know about SMART goals: specific, measurable, actionable, and achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Strategy number 20 is identity. Your habits reflect your identity. So if you struggle to change a particular habit, rethink your identity. Every identity, athlete, artist, environmentalist, reliable parent, strong leader, carries certain habits with it. So act as if you're already the person that you want to be. What type of decisions does that person make? Do that thing. And number 21 is other people. Your habits rub off on other people and their habits rub off on you. Associate with people who follow the habits that you want to adopt. There is a saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And this is an idea attributed to a motivational speaker, Jim Rohn, highlights how the people in your close circle identify and influence your behaviours, actions, attitudes, and overall outlook on life. And the concept emphasizes that our relationships significantly shape our choices, actions, and mindset, whether or not we realize it. So if your close friends prioritize fitness, you're more likely to adopt a healthier behavior. And spending time with ambitious, optimistic individuals can inspire and challenge you to aim higher, while being around someone who's negative can really hold you back. And who hasn't experienced that in the past? So think about that as you are thinking about how best to solidify some of these New Year's intentions that you really identified as being important to you on January 1st. So they should be as important to you on January 25th as well, hopefully. And I'll be identifying and talking a lot about this stuff in the Unlocking Metabolic Mastery webinar that is taking place this Wednesday, New Zealand time at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. So the same webinar run twice. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. I would love you to join. It is being recorded and sent out afterwards if you can't join live, but join live because that's where you get the most bang for your buck, even though you're not paying anything. And if this is important to you, I highly recommend making one of the sessions. Anyway, if you've got any questions about it, hit me up in the DMs over on Instagram at Mikki Williden. That's my handle for Threads and Twitter as well. Or Facebook at Mikki Williden Nutrition. Or head to my website, mikkiwilliden.com, and sign up to that webinar coming this Wednesday. All right, team, you have the best week. See you later.